Greetings, Modernism in the Museum students. Welcome to week number 1. And I'm really excited about the time that we'll spend together. I want to give you a little bit more information about some of the details of the class and how I will approach the material. In addition to the weekly discussion prompts, there'll also be a midterm reflection paper and then a final proposal, a final paper proposal, and then your final paper. Week 8 is a week that I won't be giving you any more content. I want you to be focusing on writing your term paper. The midterm reflection is a way for you to focus attention on a particular issue or problem that you find most interesting so far that may possibly transform itself into, in some way, a paper topic that you can focus your attention on. And after the midterm reflection, I want you to start focusing your attention on this final paper. The paper itself is really the summa, the conclusion, the artifact that you are able to produce that documents and reflects your work with this material and your approach to this really interesting subject. Something that you can take with you as you continue your studies, something that can form a way of your approach to studying modern art history and theory and criticism, understanding the role that museums historically and theoretically play in how we understand art in the conditions of modernity having meaning and significance. Also, my philosophy of education, or my philosophy of teaching, is that I'm not teaching for content, for education. I'm teaching for conversion. I want a transformation. I want a light to go off in your head. Something that I bring up, that I mention, a way for a particular approach to the material, I'm hoping can turn a light on for you, that can inspire you, that can serve as a catalyst for more thinking deeper. This is only the tip of the iceberg, and an 8-week class in a graduate program is virtually nothing. And so I'm just giving you a taste, which is also why each week you have so much reading materials that I'm giving you. I'm trying to give you as many resources as possible as you develop a file folder and resources for the museum and for modernity as a cultural phenomenon that authors these institutions, that you have a research file that's substantial. As I mentioned previously, I'm not expecting you to do all the reading. I'm expecting you, though, in the weekly prompts to respond to the readings that you have done in answering your questions. And so some of you may focus on different readings. The discussion prompt questions, the final term paper, and midterm assignments, the questions are essentially open-ended enough for you to pose the question that you want to answer. And I want to focus on that aspect, that I'm facilitating a search. I'm facilitating your search. My assumption is that you're in this program because you care and that you have questions that you're pursuing, beyond all other reasons for taking the program, that this is a search that you're engaging and you're taking upon yourself. And so I'm trying to give you as many resources and tools and perhaps a little bit of that spark and inspiration to keep you going. This week's focus is really beginning the basics. It's like the football coach for the Green Bay Packers, Vince Lombardi, beginning the first day of every season of practice by holding up a football and introducing his players to the ball. Gentlemen, this is a football. And in many ways, what I'm doing is saying, gentlemen and gentle ladies, this is modernism and this is the museum. We need to look at those entities, what they mean and what they mean together, and what's the implication of looking at the art museum as a distinctively modern phenomenon. By looking at a museum like the Metropolitan Museum that in New York, that is an encyclopedic museum that spans histories and cultures that you can begin with Egyptian pharaohs and the classical Greek and Roman statues, all the way up through Jackson Pollock's drip paintings, and somehow and in some way it's all art, is a inherently modern concept. And so how do we understand art as a modern phenomenon? That museums are in many ways, the ideal context within which we experience them. And even if we go into a friend's studio and the friend shows us his or her work, we're still viewing it in a context that is defined and shaped by the museum space. And that the museum is the secular modern church. Just as the church in the context of medieval and Renaissance art serves as the context, the liturgical and sacramental context within which these visual images were experienced, the museum becomes that space now with its own secular liturgies and secular sacraments within which these paintings function as devotional icons and meditative works that are an attempt to transfer the spiritual significance that was seen in altarpieces and icons in the church to now paintings and sculptures operating in the secular realm. And so these readings address these questions. Also, the Paradigm Museum that we'll be looking at is the Museum of Modern Art in New York, that is founded as a distinctively museum of modern art, and how modern art is understood in its relationship to the visual arts that aren't made within the condition of modernism. Also, this relationship between our aesthetic experience of works of art in museums and the connection and the parallels with a spiritual experience in churches, for example. And how we understand how the visual arts are shaped and molded by their intended context within which we experience them. And so I'll be sharing my pragmatic, my empirical experience, my daily experience curating exhibitions, curating 10 to 12 exhibitions a year at the Sheldon Museum of Art for over 11 years, overseeing those museums, working with educators, working with directors and boards and community members and members of the university faculty and staff that were my colleagues, and how that space, how I programmed that space, how I thought about that space and that institution in relationship to other public institutions. And what does a museum mean in terms of presenting artifacts in a public sphere? And how does the experience of a work of art differ in a public space as opposed to the private space of the studio? And is there a difference? What is lost in the museum space, or what is gained in the museum space? So I hope these thoughts are helpful to you. And please write me if you have any questions. I'm excited about this, about these weeks. I'm looking forward to accompanying you on this journey. It's about time for me to rethink the museum and modernism, and so I'm very happy and looking forward to doing it with you all. And you're very necessary for my exploration as I learn more and go deeper into these questions. You are necessary for me. Your questions, your insightful writings, your thinking helps me. It spurs on me and flicks on lights of illumination that I wouldn't have if I'm just having the conversations internally or with my reading partners. To actually have students that are active and engaging from different perspectives is really a privilege for me. And so again, I'm very thankful for the opportunity to serve as your guide through these next few weeks. Write me with any questions, and have a great week. Take care.